To the Motorsport Chat. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Liv.
Last week was a treat for motorsport fans across the world.
There were various series racing across the weekend, from Formula 1, the World Rally Championships, Formula 3 testing, the British Touring Car Championships, X-Trials and many more.
Despite the great racing we all got to witness and watching Red Bull racing driver Max Verstappen win his third consecutive championship, major safety concerns were raised for both the drivers during the Formula 1 Qatar Grand Prix, with temperatures over 30 degrees Celsius during the Grand Prix. Logan Sargent retired on lap 41 due to dehydration and sickness, and many other drivers feeling faint and extreme exhaustion over the race. Darcy Jackson has more on this.
So last Sunday, of course, Formula 1 headed to the deserts of Doha for the Qatar Grand Prix. World Championships won, world records broken and extreme heat made it one of the most interesting races of the season. So obviously Max Verstappen won his third world title despite the fact we still have 5 races left in the calendar. After his teammate Sergio Perez crashed out in the sprint race, Verstappen ran away with the title and with no possible way any driver can catch up to him. Perhaps one of the most concerning issues, as Natalie just mentioned, was the extreme heat faced by the drivers. Temperatures in the cockpit reached almost 50 degrees, with track temperatures not dropping below 36 degrees throughout the entire race. Several drivers were affected by this, with Logan Sargent retiring early due to feeling unwell, and both Lance Stroll and Alex Albon unable to climb out of their cars. Esteban Ocon was also thrown up in his helmet on lap 15, and Lando Norris also reported that several drivers were feeling very faint in the medical centre, which poses the question of whether this race is too dangerous to be on next year's calendar. McLaren took all of this in their stride, of course, not least with both drivers on the podium for the second time this season, but also breaking the world record for the fastest pit stop, and rookie Oscar Piastri taking his first win. So looking ahead, we have a race which is both a fan and driver favourite. It is, of course, the Circuit of the Americas across the pond in Austin, Texas. We will hopefully be seeing the return of the Honey Badger. Currently, Daniel Ricciardo is set to return for his favourite race, but nothing has as of yet been confirmed. The race will be 56 laps long, with the circuit copying some other corners from tracks such as Silverstone and Suzuka. Max Verstappen took the win in 2022, and with the way this season has been headed, I'm sure it'll be another Verstappen masterclass at the Circuit of the Americas. Any thoughts on what we might see in this race at all?
Well, from the way the season's gone, I think we can presume it might be a Max Verstappen win.
Yeah, I think
obviously
that's
Qatar
right.
brought out quite a chaotic and unpredictable weekend, perhaps. Obviously we've seen McLaren's pace, and obviously in the sprint race we saw Oscar Piastri with his first F1 win, which is huge, and also some might say quite embarrassing for Lando Norris, considering he's been in for how many seasons? 3-4 seasons now, and he's still without a win, regardless of it being a sprint or a Grand Prix win. Still not. So is this that he can't take the pressure when he has the pace in the car? What are your thoughts on this, Liv?
I think he gets in his own head a bit too much, and he stresses himself out, whereas like Max or Oscar, they're quite chill in the car, whereas I think Lando's very much like Charles Leclerc, where when the pressure gets to him, they make silly mistakes.
Definitely.
I think he can't.
Sochi was a massive example of that.
Yeah.
Just the decision making, whether to take the gap, is quite a huge thing. I think we've seen this example in Perez a lot this season.
Oh, 100%.
Like in the sprint, we saw him and Ocon collide, which brought out some great memes of when Verstappen and Ocon collided, and Verstappen went to hit Ocon. That was quite a chaotic moment. We thought we might see something like that after the race. And we had quite a few retirements well during the sprint race. There were about 5 retirements.
I think so.
Which people were going for overtakes that were very
very risky.
Very optimistic.
For a sprint,
definitely. And we also saw Rosberg take a selfie with Verstappen.
We did.
So we thought, right, some
It's
point
over.
this weekend, Verstappen's out. Verstappen is crashing. He's, you know,
he's a
goner. He's a goner in the Grand Prix.
Exactly.
But obviously that didn't happen. He did win the Grand Prix.
He did. He's been stopping all the curses this year.
Yeah. At the beginning of the race, we saw Hamilton and Russell collide. Now, this is quite funny, actually, because we heard Russell commenting in the car saying that he was taking responsibility, essentially.
He was, and it wasn't his fault.
Well, it was quite clearly Hamilton's fault.
It was.
And obviously, in the moment, I think you get caught up, and he obviously won't want another situation like Hamilton and Rosberg. With an intense rivalry, crashing into each other. So he'll be doing everything possible to avoid that. But that was quite clearly Hamilton going for a risky overtake around the outside in turn 1, which was never going to happen. 3 cars going into turn 1. It's never going to end well.
No.
Then, obviously, we had the interesting pit stop strategy.
It was
with the rule about
weird
pitting. So it was a new situation, and I think for fans it might have seemed quite confusing. So
yeah, definitely.
What were your thoughts watching the Grand Prix and seeing this on the screen?
It was really weird because you just didn't know who was going to place where.
Yeah.
Because people were just pitting
left, right,
and centre. It was madness.
I feel like the whole race
was insane.
Just purely
That's
pit stops.
all I really remember are people pitting and pitting and pitting.
Yeah.
It was just madness.
Definitely. So we saw that McLaren's fastest pit stop, as well, as Darcy mentioned before. Obviously, the beginning of the season, they were really far down the grid, as we've said in previous shows. But as they had no pace, but yet their pit stops were really, really good.
Yeah.
They were putting in great pit stops, like Red Bull.
Exactly.
And then, obviously, throughout the season, we've seen some other good pit stops, but 1.8, that's insane.
It's madness. That's faster than Red Bull.
That is faster than Red Bull, which is something I never thought would be from McLaren.
No.
I thought maybe Mercedes might challenge, but no.
Yeah, but no, they smashed it.
Yeah, and obviously the double podium as well.
Yeah.
So
it's cute. I love it.
Not only was it a double McLaren podium, it was Piastri above Norris once again. What do you think this means for Norris's future with the team?
I think it's really going to knock his confidence. Really, really going to knock his confidence. Because Lando's been in Formula One far longer than Piastri. And I think Piastri just races so much better.
So, in terms of his rookie season, obviously he's performed better than most rookies we've 100%. Seen within the past 10 years. He's broken records. He's done phenomenally. He won F3, F2, and then he's gone into F1 and has just done better than we all could have ever predicted. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on his season so far and his performances?
He's been absolutely brilliant. Like, when you look at all the races comparing him to Logan Sargent, who hasn't had the best rookie year, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But Oscar has just raced phenomenally. It's really, really good to watch, especially for McLaren. But I think he's...
Yeah. So, as you said about Logan, and he's retired quite a lot, he's had quite a few incidents, his performance hasn't been quite where you would have hoped it would be. Yeah. I mean, I know he's a rookie, but you would still hope for a little bit more, considering that Albon's done so well this season.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we know that this weekend there was nothing he could have done. He felt physically sick, like most of the drivers, as Darcy said before. But I want to hear your thoughts on the future of this Grand Prix, because obviously majority of the drivers were saying they felt physically ill during the car. Lance Stroll came out after the race saying that he was passing out as he was going into the corners.
Yeah.
He was blacking out, which is terrifying when you think the speeds they're going. If they crash at that speed, the G-force that's going to hit them if they're going into a corner without braking, it's terrifying. So
it is, it's madness.
What do you think the future is for Qatar in F1?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. And I know next year they're moving it by 6 weeks. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the first weekend of December is going to be next year's Qatar, which I think should be better, but you just don't know, do you really? It's terrifying. Unsafe, and I think it's quite silly.
We saw the video of Lance Stroll walking over to the ambulance, stumbling,
and almost collapsing onto the ambulance.
Yeah, Alex Albon. There's the picture of, was it Ocon lying down on the floor? We saw in the post-race cool-down room that Piastri and Verstappen were literally like, they were dying to sit down, lie down.
Yeah, Oscar was just laid on the floor.
And you could see in the interviews, they were almost a bit frustrated with how much it had taken out of them. Like, it was physically so demanding to the point where it was unsafe, really, wasn't it?
Even in the post-race interviews, Lando seemed all right, and Max and Oscar were they couldn't stand up. It was insane.
I think in a way it's a shame, because I think there are tracks that are better that could take this position on the calendar that are obviously 100%. Much safer for the drivers and much better to watch as a fan. I mean, I know there was a lot going on this weekend, but I don't think the racing was necessarily a great part of the weekend. I think it was more the chaos of pit stops and obviously the sprint race with a lot going on, retirements. But heading into, not this weekend, the following weekend, we have the Austin Grand Prix.
Yes.
So what are your predictions heading into that weekend?
Well, I think it is going to be another Verstappen win.
Yeah.
I have this feeling that Lando is going to do really well. Don't know why, I just have that feeling.
Yes.
You know, a stomach gut feeling that Lando's going to do really well.
I think we'll probably see another Verstappen win.
Yep.
As we have done the whole season. I think that the track for Red Bull will be better. I think it'll be interesting to see if Ricciardo does turn up. Obviously, we know
I hope he does.
Supposed to return here, but whether he is fully recovered and if he actually can turn up, that'll be quite interesting to see. Well, we've seen that Lawson's performed so well, so it'll be kind of sad to see him leave.
It will be,
Last weekend in Qatar wasn't his best performance we've seen so far, but other than that, he's done really well. And I think this race will be interesting. I think we might see more level playing field for the rest of the team, for the midfield. It'll be interesting to see where McLaren place during this.
Definitely.
We'll also see F1 Academy return for the finale alongside F1. It's an all-female single-seater series, and it announced over the summer that it will be live broadcasted. This is great
I can't wait. It's going to be really, really good.
This is great for females in motorsport.
It is. It's brilliant.
I think it should have been done last year, realistically.
Yeah, it should have been done the whole time.
Considering W Series was.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was a bit of a shame to see that this was so brushed to the side, considering it's got F1 in the name.
Yeah.
You would have thought that they would have given the funding to broadcast it, but so we haven't seen much of it as fans. Female motorsport fans, we want to see the female racing, but we haven't been able to this year. They've released clips and highlights, but that's not, we want to see the live racing.
Yeah.
That's something that you want to see, the live performances. But regardless, it's great to see that. We'll be able to watch it. And of course, during the Qatar Grand Prix, we heard Rosberg made comments on Jessica Hawkins' performance when she did the F1 test in the AMR21 around the Hungaroring. He said that she was rapid, her lap times were phenomenal, which is something we were hoping to hear about. Because
it's lovely to hear, especially someone like Nico Rosberg saying it. Like,
it means a lot to hear
an
former F1 driver comment
100%.
so highly on a female racing driver.
It's really nice because you don't really, F1 drivers don't really speak about it that much. I know Lewis has
might have made
sometimes, but it's nice to see and nice to hear, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So will you be tuning in next year to F1 Academy, do you think?
100%. I used to love W Series, so it's going to be really, really nice to see them all back out and racing again.
Definitely, and I do hope that it means the progression into getting funding towards Formula 3 and moving up throughout the categories
Definitely.
will be great. Of course, we have Formula E testing
We
back
do.
at the end of the month, which is going to be really good to see
Yeah,
the
it'll be
cars
really
back
exciting.
on track.
Yeah.
Obviously, fans can look forward to the electric series coming back in January. It's January 13th that it's coming back. We'll have some new faces on the grid, which is going to be interesting
Really
to
cool.
see.
Really
Yeah,
exciting.
great. So over the weekend in the World Rally Championship, we saw Kalle Rovaniemi secure his lead in the championship by 31 points with 3 rounds remaining, with the British driver Elfyn Evans chasing the championship win. But for those who aren't familiar with how the World Rally Championship works, only one car drives the race during one time, aiming to get the best time. So each car is operated by a driver and a co-driver, and each rally is typically split into about 15 to 20 special stages where the driver competes against the clock. So a bit like F1 qualifying, you could say. The races take place in multiple countries, with the terrain ranging from the desert to snow, and you can watch it on World Rally Championship on BT Sport or SC4.
Well, that is all we have time for today.
We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.